Welcome to the show, everyone. Today's guest is Todd Saylor. Todd was born and raised in Adrian, Michigan, in a family that would groom him for success. His father was a motivator, teacher, and football coach, a mentor, a survivor, and an entrepreneur, whom Todd would learn from and eventually seek to surpass. Todd was able to witness firsthand that success was closer than he thought if he was willing to work for it. At the age of 8 years old, while other children were enjoying their weekends playing with friends, Todd began his job at the family donut business, a job he would keep until he graduated from Manchester University in Indiana 14 years later. After college, Todd would move on to fulfill his purpose as an entrepreneur. First, he built and operated 5 donut shops in Indiana, and then started a professional employee leasing organization, an HR solutions company, and a payroll outsourcing company. As the man behind the internationally known brand Wired Differently and the Tiki Hut Business Retreat, Todd is on a mission to be America's coach. As a functional coach, building his clients personally, spiritually, and profitably. Over time, as an entrepreneur, CEO, speaker, business coach, philanthropist, and author, Todd has grown his business portfolio to include 14 organizations, 5 brands, and an 8-figure net worth. Most importantly, he became a Christian and married the love of his life over 35 years ago and raised 3 daughters together with his wife. I'm excited to have Todd on the show today to share his story of how mindset and his Wired Differently approach to life has allowed him to see, experience, and maximize his impact on the world. And with that, Todd Saylor, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good morning. I don't even know what time it is right now. I think it's afternoon somewhere, right?
It's afternoon, bro.
Good to have you, Eric. Good to have you a part of the Wired Differently mindset, mission, movement, and ministry. You're a good man.
Likewise, bro. This is going to be a fun talk. We were chatting it up before hitting record, and I always regret that. I should just start these shows, just hit record, we chat it up, and then I'm going to read it in. I may change my format and just
we saved enough. We saved enough ammunition. You guys are going to love this show. I guarantee it.
I'm telling you, this could be like a 4-part, 15-part series. We could do one a month and still not get to all your stuff, dude. You have so much in your background. It took me a while to write your story, not because it was so long, but because I had to cut so much out in order to fit it into a regular read-in.
Well, I think that's good.
There's a lot there. I left out all the football stuff, the car accidents.
You're right. You left out the All-American.
There's a stadium named after you, man. There's like a stadium.
Yeah. Some fun stuff. It's a when you're 58, I mean, you've had a long life. You had time. I mean, I'm 59 before you know it. And then I think 60 comes after. I don't know what comes after 59, but yeah. So, I mean, you hope
my people,
it's funny. You start off like that. It's funny. I remember, I was probably 15 or 16 years old, and my father, he's amazing. He's a legend and a football coach. And hopefully we're going to get into some of that. The movie I'm making about him.
Oh, man. I didn't know.
It's amazing. My 4th book is coming out. We'll get to that. But I don't know. You spurred some memories. And I remember like feeling like I was boring. My dad had all these stories about like when he was a kid and his brother and the antics that they did back in the 50s and 60s, or whatever that was back in the days. And I had this buddy by the name of Dave, but he is in my first book. If you read the first book, did you read the first book, the first chapter, Wired Differently?
Wired Differently. Got it right here.
He's in it. His name is Psycho. I don't know if you remember that, but Psycho, he was just crazy. And I remember talking to Dave. I said, Dave, my dad has all these crazy stories about when he was a kid and everything. And I just done nothing. I'm never going to have any stories to tell my children. I've done nothing. He goes, come on, let's go. And old Psycho grabbed me and we jumped. We had to be 16 because we jumped in his car. I said, where are we going? He goes, don't worry. I got something for you. And he's my best friend to this day. He's just like in and out of jail and all kinds of, he's the greatest guy. So we get in the car, he had an old Impala that was a cop car and he had the spotlight on it. And we would drive on the road, and people thought it was still a cop car because it was an Impala, but he had the light. He'd shine it on people, and they'd pull over, and he'd
go by.
So he said, let's go to the golf course. And I was like, go to the golf. Why are we going to the golf course? He said, here's why. So we get out of the car, we go up to the top of this hill, and every night this golf cart left all of these golf carts at the top of the hill, just sitting at the top of the hill. And I'm like, Dave, what are we gonna do with golf carts? He says, well, let's just go drive them. I said, Dave, they're not gonna leave keys in their golf carts. He goes, I know that, silly. We go to the golf carts. I said, what are we going to do? And all of a sudden he pulls out of his pocket, not one, but two keys.
Oh, man. No
I
way.
said, Dave, where'd you get the keys? He goes, you really want to know? I go, no, I don't want to know. We jumped in those golf carts. We drove them all night. We tore up through we didn't hit the greens or anything. I can't remember. I don't even want to tell the rest of the story. Probably gets 50 years later. But at the end of the day, we get done and we go home and he goes, is that a good enough story for you? And the funny thing is, I've never told that story till your show right now.
Hilarious. Are those golf cart keys, are they universal? Like, they must be universal, man.
I don't know. I think he had a buddy that worked there.
Oh, right on.
You know,
inside job. Always an inside job, man.
Yeah, always. You have to start from the inside.
You start.
Right, so anyways, first book, Wired Differently. First chapter is the title of it's Fight. And I actually have a fight scene in that book with Dave and I fighting our arch rivals, the Prairie Heights Panthers, in a fist fight. So that was the beginning of setting people up in leadership. Not that they have to fist fight, but like, it's just, you just turn me on and I go, don't worry, Eric. But here's the deal. I think one of the most important things about being a leader is you have to be willing to fight.
Yeah.
You have to fight for yourself. You have to fight for your people. You have to fight for your belief. You have to fight for this country. You have to fight for your beliefs in this country. You know, we actually started this entire show talking about where are we going to stand on immigration? Where are we going to stand on when they try to take Christianity out of our belief structure? Where are we going to stand when they start to take our rights and our freedoms away from us, right? You know, what are we going to fight for?
That's absolutely right. You can hear my dog. She's fighting in the background. She's going bonkers back there.
I hope she doesn't give up, man.
She doesn't give up. She doesn't quit. It's probably a small dog. She only barks at the small dogs like that. They drive her wacko. I don't know what it is. I hear her out there. No,
I'm a small dog guy, just so you know. I do not take her potty and I do not clean up her poop, but it's my wife's dog, but I have major props for my dog, Chloe.
Right on. Props for Chloe.
Okay, I've cleaned up her poop sometimes, but because my wife tells me to, but it's not my normal job.
You have to, man. Got to do it. Now, you definitely have said some killer things there. The reality is,
let's go, man. Come on.
We are.
You got me fired up.
There is an attack going on, and it's a spiritual. I believe it's a spiritual attack. There's a lot of evil floating around right now, and we have to be willing to stand up. You're right, 100%. You have had some fights in your background, man. I was reading, excuse me, one of your other books. You threw hands with your neighbor. You had a neighbor that was got a little sideways with him, right? Sound like though he first though he kind of came at you, kind of.
I went to jail. I went to jail over that one. Well, you have read my books.
I'm telling you, man. I read.
Well, you
send me books. I'm going to read them.
So you're bringing up fight. Yeah, I guess I do have. First book, I had a fight scene. In the second book, I had a fight scene. Well, the reason I told the story in the second book, you got to understand that John Maxwell is brilliant, and he talks about his old. I'm a Maxwell guy as much as anything. And leadership, and some of the greatest gifts of leadership is obviously honesty in your own faults and your own failures. And so, when I tell those stories, they're funny, but I just want you to know I'm real, and I've still found a way to make it through life to this point in living in God's kingdom minded set here on earth. Matthew 6:9 says heaven on earth. And we're trying to do that. We accept Christ in our heart. We do those things and we can have heaven on earth. We can have it right now, but doesn't mean that we're not going to screw up, right? And I think that one of the things I would just tie into that real quick is that since we do have heaven on earth and we have accepted him and we do go through these things, we are misfits. We just really don't belong here. But here's the thing. The reason I hit that guy a couple times was because he hit me first.
Right.
And he was a bully. And he had threatened my child. And he was mean to animals. Now, he would tell you he isn't, but he was. And so here's the deal. I had no choice. He hit me, and in a split second, my glasses went flying off my face. And I thought to myself, Eric, I will never, ever let my children think that another man will have anything on me or them, especially one they're in fear of. And so I smoked him. Now, he was quite a bit bigger than me, and it was what it was.
And he was a farmer too, so he's like a big dude, right?
He was a big dude. He was a big dude. He was a little older than me, but long story short, we'll just get into it. You should read the book. The whole story in the book's amazing.
Yep.
But we did go to court, and I got found innocent in less than 20 minutes with a jury of my peers, which nobody would sit on the jury because they all knew me.
That's crazy, man. And then it happened in public too, so people saw this. It wasn't like you were, you're working with kids, right? You were
one guy on a rooftop saw it, and he finally.
Yeah, because you were like at a gas station or something, wasn't it, or a mechanic? It was at
a garage, a repair garage. You're close. Your memory's good. Yeah. Anyways, I was exonerated, and I've actually tried to make amends. He's not a believer, and he's not a part of any of it. But that's a long time.
That's tough.
15 years ago. But that's tough. You're the only one. I've done 20 podcasts, and you're the only one that's asked me about. That's awesome. I'm not ashamed of it.
No, man. And it's what you said there at the end, right? You've tried to make amends. So that is, to me, scripturally, we are called to forgive, right? Not one time, 3 times, not 7 times, 77, which basically means all the times. That's a tough one, man. When we feel like we've really been wronged, I struggle with that. I feel like I've been really wronged. Like I'm in the right. This is not fair. Something along those lines. When you feel like, and yet, Christ was wronged far more than any of us can even glimpse of, right? Unfair, wronged.
Yeah.
And he calls us to forgive. But that I think is one of the toughest, if not the toughest parts of scripture, is you have to forgive and always forgive. And then pray for, not only forgive and walk away, but pray for the abundance, pray for the blessing of the person that wronged you, which is like, whoa, it's hard. But
thank you for that. It's interesting you bring that up too, is that, we were talking about political and Jesus, you were talking about the man, right? That Jesus is so awesome. And I do a podcast every morning at 9:00 on my Facebook page, Todd Saylor, Wired Differently. So I would encourage any of you to come there, and I can coach you on the show every morning live. I answer questions. It's all no cost at anything of that nature. It's just fun. It's a show where I develop my coaching skills, and I coach people personally, spiritually, and profitably. I'm America's first functional business coach. I don't know if I'm the first, but I'm the first one to say I'm the first. So that's kind of how it works. So I coach people up personally, spiritually, and profitably. And when you bring up Jesus, he's the perfect avatar, right? To use a marketing term. And so when you think about Jesus and you think about like grace and forgiveness and all that, and I don't know why it's sticking in my head. We were talking about immigration and all those things. But wasn't Christ the first chief diversity officer in any company? How can you confuse Christ for anything but being diversity, right?
Yeah.
He came here to free everybody.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, the Jewish people thought he came here just for them. He says, no, I'm a Jew. I'm one of you, but I didn't come here for you. I came here for you and the Gentiles and the Samaritans and all the outermost parts of the world. I was, come on, man, this is love, baby. This is it. Come on. It's all like Donkey Kong. Everybody can go to heaven if they come through me, not just the Jew. That's why I'm the diversity chief operating officer of the world, right? And so, come on now, diversity, schmersity. Jesus is the first and foremost. I just want to, I had that thought. You've given me 2 firsts on your show. First time I ever talk about Christ as a diversity officer. And the first time I ever talked about going down the hills. And 3, I never talked about the fight sequence and I went to jail. Phew, this show's off the hook already.
Right on. We hadn't even started barely.
Oh man.
All right, let's dial it back a notch and talk about donuts, man. You grew up around donuts. You grew up around donuts in a donut shop. Now I think about donut shops, I think about early mornings. And Indiana, cold, snowy winter mornings, early making
What are
donuts.
you trying to do to me? You trying to I just flew back from Angola, Indiana. I still have several companies up there. And it's interesting because I grew up making donuts and playing football, and it shaped me in a way that I think I'm just extra special in that regard. I'm grateful for my father and my mother and all that kind of stuff for making me work hard. But no, I didn't have a weekend off until I was 21 years old. And the irony of it all is when I graduated from college, I swore I would never do donuts again. And I graduated from college and I went to work for Taco Bell. I was on a corporate fast track. I was the number 1 recruit out of MBAs and everybody, and they paid me the most they ever paid it. I took the job. I did it for a year. I hated it. I thought, oh my gosh, if I'm going to work this hard, I might as well work for myself. And so in my first book, I think you've read that, I took over a donut shop that was closed. Well, I built that up to 5 stores and then I lost everything. And that's really the story of my entrepreneurship started and began. But most recently in 2018, my father's Tom's Donuts world, wasn't aware dementia was taking him. I wasn't there enough, and my brother wasn't catching on. And so he started to really fail and slow terms with money and things of that nature. Anyways, in 2018, that entire family legacy of Tom's Donuts had foundered. And again, I told my wife, I said, I'm never going to do that again. And sure enough, I went back and I closed it all down and reopened it under the new name, Tom's Donuts Original. Tom's Donuts Original. This is a great story. And I didn't want my father's legacy to be tainted with bankruptcy and all those kind of things that could possibly were coming. And so I bought out all his debt and bought out all his land and got him in the right place, put him in his house, and has a dementia, and his wife has Parkinson's. So, we've got caretakers there and they're not in a nursing home. We're doing everything we can do to avoid those things. But long story short is in 2018, we rebranded it, redid it. And I told the world, and this is in my 3rd book, Your Will Be Done. Phenomenal book. First book was my favorite, but then the second book was my favorite book. The 3rd book is clearly my favorite book. The 4th book is titled The Tiger in Us. And if you go to thetigerinus.com, thetigerinus.com, you can see the movie trailer for the movie that's going to be made about this book I'm writing right now. You're the first to have that. You're the first to have that.
Right on, man. Awesome.
So I open up Tom's Donuts Original. We reopen it. And my wife says, you're crazy. Why are you doing this? Our life is perfect without this shenanigans. We've been married almost 40 years. I knew she wasn't going to leave me. I just knew it. She's not going to leave me. She's in, like you once you're so far in, like you can't even turn around, even if you want to. But baby, I get it. I respect you. I'm having some fun with you right now. But I knew she wasn't going to leave me. He didn't want to do donuts either.
He's like,
so I said, here's my plan though. Here's the plan. We're going to go back. It's been there 50 years. We have 2 locations. One's been on this lake area since 1970. It's horrible, but people still come to it. And I said, listen, we are going to make this the donut capital of the world. And she said, what in the heck are you talking about? I said, no one's doing it. We deserve it. My dad's done it 50 years. We've had some rough years, but if I rebrand this thing, I'm going to make this into the donut capital of the world. She says, you've lost your thinking mind. I said, don't worry. It's my mind. I'll find it. And you're going to be 2018. Now it's 2024 right now. In 2020, roughly 3 years from the date I took it over, I started walking around telling people it's the new Tom's Donuts Original. And we are the donut capital world. And when I first started saying it a year after or so, people were like, "Are you crazy?" Just like my wife. They're all like my wife. You crazy? I actually went to my dad and I said, "Dad, we're the donut." He goes, "Todd, you can't say that stuff. Why are you? You're gonna get in trouble." He's like, he used to be this bald guy on and everything, football coach, and now he's like afraid of his ghost and me and spending money. And I said, "Dad, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. I'm a professional." And he said, "Great, great, great. But you can't say that." I said, "I'm saying it because we are." So about the first year, everybody's like, "You're crazy, you're crazy." The second year, I kept saying it, and they're like, "You're the donut capital of the world, are you?" "Yeah, I said I was donut." They're like scratching their head. "Donut capital, wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be cool?" Third year, I was walking down the road, and I was going by some people. All of a sudden, I heard this car coming up behind me. They're honking the horn crazy, and someone reached out the window, and they looked at me and honked, and they go, "Donut capital of the world." I'm like, "We did it, man. We did it." Right. And so just at that time in 2020, I had been working with the Guinness Book of World Records. And the Guinness Book of World Records, they're like, "What do you want to do?" And I said, I'm the donut capital of the world." Like, "Well, I'll prove it." And I said, "Well, I'm going to sell more donuts than anybody's ever sold in 8 hours in the entire world. I'm going to do it." And they're like, "Okay, we can get behind that." And they said, "You got 15 grand?" I said, "I'll find 15 grand. Don't worry about that. Can I get the record if we build it?" She goes, "Okay, but we're going to have to build the rules." And so this went on for a year. A donut's got to have a hole in it. We got to have all the ingredients. We got to have all your recipes. We got to have the health inspector. We can only sell 10 at a time. We can only do this. You can't reduce the price. This went on forever in the COVID schmovid. And I finally said, "Listen, lady, a donut has more than just, there are donuts that have cream filling in them. There are donuts that have jelly rolls in them, and they're Persians." And I said, "Don't tell me what a damn donut is." And nobody buys donuts by 10. They buy them by a dozen. So we went through this whole thing. Finally, we get it done. 2020, Memorial Day. I advertised this every TV station, radio station, social media. We were all there. We were fire. And they flew in this guy from London. His name was Mike, I believe. And Mike came in a suit coat, and he was curmudgeon. You know what curmudgeon is?
Oh, yeah.
Eric, he was curmudgeon. And I said, "You can't be curmudgeon and come to the donut capital of the world. We have sunshine and joy and summer in a box. You better get your game on." He says, "Okay." Well, anyways, I said, "Mike, we're going to break this record." He said, "I hope so. You better get more positive." So at 4 o'clock in the morning, I come rolling over the hill. We're going to open up at 6 a.m. I'm thinking, "Gosh, what if nobody shows up? This is the worst thing that could ever happen." So I'm coming over the hill, coming down to the landing to get to the donut shop, the donut capital of the world. And as I come over the hill 2 hours early to set up some signs and hopefully to wrangle some customers, we had to sell 2,000 donuts to break this world record.
2,000 in a 24-hour period, or
in 8 hours. I had to make them and sell them in 8 hours. And so I'm coming over the hill at 4 a.m. I can't believe it. The lights are all on. Everything's lit up. And there must have been over 100 people already camping out. Some of them were camping out from 2 in the morning, 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, "Gosh, my Lord, you answered my prayers." I was literally misty. I was crying as I rolled up on it. I said, "This is going to happen, man."
Yeah.
So at about 5:30, I did a prayer with a couple hundred people that are already there and waiting in line. I handed out some T-shirts, and sure enough, the gun went off. Gun goes off. Everyone goes to the line, and it's on. We had to have counters. We had to have a CPA firm there. We had to they wouldn't take the register. They had to be counted hand by hand. We had to line them up with the register. It was the craziest thing I ever seen, Eric. From 4 a.m. to, what did we go till 2 p.m.? I believe it was 2 p.m. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2. 2 p.m. Lines never stopped. They were at least a quarter mile long. It was the most insane thing. People came from all over the country. Like it was like I saw it. My wired differently, mindset. Everything I coach and everything I teach was like firing at once. And at 2 o'clock, we shut that off, and people were exhausted, and everyone hung around, and we counted up the donuts. And finally, the counter gets the official counter to curmudgeon Mike in his tuxedo, and he walks up and he says, "Do you want to know your count?" I go, "Well, you're going to tell me, aren't you?" He goes, "I'm going to make the announcement right now." I'm like, "Okay." He said, "Do you want to know if you got it or not before I get up there?" I said, "Nope." So he walks up there on the stage. We had a couple hundred people around. You can go on, you can Google this. If you Google the donut capital of the world, You'll see me. You'll see Tom's Donuts. You'll see pictures of the event. You'll see the sign, the donut. It's a great story. And it's in my fourth book or my third book, Your Will Be Done. Gets up on the stage. He says, hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. From the powers invested in me from the Guinness Book of World Records, I'm here to announce whether we sold 2,000 or more donuts to break the world record of donuts. Everyone's quiet. Drum roll. People kind of drum roll in the background, kind of having fun with it. On this 28th day of May 2020, I am here to announce that the attempt for the Guinness Book of World Records to sell more than 2,000 donuts in an 8-hour period, made by hand and rolled exactly on site, has been determined. Tom's Donuts has sold 8,558 donuts. The place goes crazy. We like smashed the record. It was like the most amazing thing you've ever seen. People were cheering. The USC marching band was coming down the street. The parades, the confetti. It was amazing. Okay, so I'm making that up, but it was amazing. We broke the world record. So the donut capital of the world, and it's a testimony, my good friend, to believing. Right? It's a testimony to this wired differently creation that God has given us, right? Our subconscious, our prefrontal cortex, and how he has wired our supernova supremeness in our subconscious. You know, God is so cool that he gave us free will, right? And he gave us his will. Right. And if we can triangulate our free will with his will, then your will be done has worked and you are wired differently. Right. And so that's the point I try to make to people is that, you know, you don't have to believe in God to have an amazing mind and have the mind work for you to accomplish things in this world. Right. Bill Gates is a perfect example of somebody who has never professed Christ in his life. But he has trained his subconscious to do certain things in this world that have made him wealthy beyond any of our understanding. So God's cool like that. He's like, man, I'm going to give you this body and this brain in my image. And I'm going to give you all the tools to get whatever you want in this world. But I'm not going to tether your actuators on believing in me or not.
Right.
He says, I love you so much that I'm going to give you all this stuff. And I'm going to set you free. And some of us do it, and some of us use that power for good, bad, whatever. But those of us who accept Christ into our life have really, really yoked that subconscious. Because without Christ in our life, that subconscious, that heat-seeking subconscious, that missile binding, whatever you put in your subconscious happens. I'm telling you, Eric, anything, it happens. And so when you put the donut capital world in your mind, it's going to happen because your subconscious is going to shut off. So the beauty of your subconscious, when you bring God into it, is that he's in there with you. He's telling you if that's a good thought. He's like, donut capital world, good thought. Pornography, not good, right? So whatever you put in your mind happens. Donut capital world, good. Pornography, bad. What do you want to have happen in your life, my friends? What do you want to come out of your life? Because your identity of your being is what you put in your subconscious. And I'm glad I put the donut capital world in my subconscious. And I'm glad I'm not putting the other stuff in my because it ruins you.
Yep.
Right. And you're saying, why are you going with porn? Well, I'll tell you why. Because in my third book, I write a whole chapter on pornography in the subconscious and how it's destroyed people, because it's the only example that I can talk about that scares every man I talk to. I've never seen a man just start to tremble inside, right? I tremble every time I talk about it because I'm like, oh, I'm going to offend somebody. But 95% of all men in America have confessed to have seen it.
Right.
Which means there's a 5% factor that are lying.
Lying. That's right.
I could do the action. I got a little accounting in me. Like I know they're lying.
Yeah.
And any one of us men, I'm not going to pick on women because, but I know that I know the statistics for them too. It's somewhere
Mm.
around 65%. But every man who's seen it would be lying if they told you that they didn't find something intriguing about it, right? And so that's that addictive quality. It's that thing, if we do something 14 minutes and 24 seconds every day, it becomes a habit and we become be 1% better at it. And so I did Donut Capital World 14 minutes and 24 seconds and maybe even more every day. And it happened in my life. Can you imagine? If you do it every day for 2 years, you get 33% better at it in 1 year. You get 112 times better in 2 years and 37,000 times in 3 years. It's just this thing. And so can you imagine if you're pumping your subconscious, your will be done into this God-given supernova subconscious, you're pumping things in it for goodness in your life. But here's the detractor. If you're putting bad things in your mind 1% a day, like pornography, that happens too. So I'm loving everybody on this podcast, and I appreciate this opportunity. But I mean, this is a pretty serious topic on what your subconscious can do for you, or as I say in my third book, what it can do against you.
Pardon the interruption, everyone. Do you ever feel like you're out of alignment with your true gifts, your passion, and your purpose for being on this earth? Do you feel like you're grinding it out each week with the appearance of success and still asking, is this it? If so, I get it. I've been right where you're at. And once I figured it out for myself, it's why I started coaching. Now I help my clients get back into alignment with their authentic self. I help them find meaning, purpose, joy, and energy in each day. Check out my website at ericsardina.com to learn more and to schedule a free 15-minute strategy session. And now, back to the show.
It's powerful, man. The mind is powerful. And
that's the Donut Capital World story.
I love it. I love it. So I'm a practical thinker too. So I sit here and go, now cranking out 8,000 donuts in an 8-hour period. And also not knowing what your totals were, maybe being able to somewhat estimate, are we getting close or not? There had to be equipment failures during the 8,000. The mixer goes down, the oven stops working. You had to overcome some things along that 8 hours, right?
Not equipment. Honestly, we had a perfect day.
Really?
We over, it was
engineered to death. So you were ready.
Well, we've been doing it since we were 8 years old.
Yeah.
And I didn't make any of them. I think I went in and made, like 40 or 50 dozen because I know I love it and I know how to do it, and gave some people a break. But
yeah,
no, honestly, you're the first person to bring some. It was perfect. Maybe it was anointed, but we had to have the health inspector in there at 2 a.m. One of the other things that I thought was really interesting is they wouldn't let us start any earlier than, I think, 3 a.m. So it was 4 hours. So 2 a.m. I think it was 4 hours. We couldn't get started 4 hours earlier than we opened.
Yep.
Which, I act like it was a big problem with all these rules, but the truth is I helped make the rules.
Yeah.
And, because we set the record. We didn't really break a record. They went out and the record had never been set. And so they went all over London and all over the world, supposedly, and found out what a lot of donuts would be for an average, situation.
Right.
And so that's where they came up with it. And so the rest of it, I knew that whatever rules that we applied to this, someone else would have to follow.
Yeah.
So I was able to navigate the rules around things that fit our home field advantage.
I got you.
Like, we make them by hand. We don't use machines. We have more than one. We had 3 fryers, 3 rolling tables, and most people could not get nearly enough donuts made quick enough to accommodate that type of sale at 6 a.m. because you're because you're rolling. If you start at 4 in the morning, it would be 2 in the morning. It was 2 in the morning. The first hour is just like dough prep. You get nothing out of it. You're not really getting donuts until the second hour. So you only have 2 hours to roll, actually to fry and produce. And then, so, I mean, it's pretty interesting when you really pulled some things out of me. I appreciate that. It's fun. It was a great accomplishment. And my dad had to admit that we were the donut capital of the world. And at the end, he said 8,558 donuts in the donut capital of the world. So the irony of this, I know I'm talking, but you got me going.
No.
You're a great. So the irony of this whole thing is that now when you Google the donut capital of the world, we're the only one that comes up.
Love it.
So when you do that, now the last stage of this, just last month, 2 years later, I finally won the patent on the registered mark of the donut capital of the world.
No way.
I own the patent.
Great.
No, they could break my record, and they can't use the moniker.
It's crazy, man.
I don't know. I think it's fun.
It's hilarious. So a couple things come to mind there. So there's actually a town right next to the one I live in called Grapevine, Texas, and they grabbed the term "we're the Christmas capital of the world," and forever people kind of laughed at them.
We used them to win this on the third appeal.
You did?
Yeah.
Because it's hilarious, right? You were saying that. I'm thinking this sounds like Grapevine, because people laugh like, oh, Grapevine, Christmas capital. That's so silly, right? Grapevine, Texas, Grapevine, Christmas capital of the world. Now everybody's like Christmas capital of the world. That's
right. But did they win the right? I think if they won the registered patented mark on it, then we used them. But if they're not patented, then we didn't use them, because we finally went back to the attorney and we're like, listen, what's your problem, man? No one else is claiming. It's just too generic. Like, too generic. There is the Christmas capital of the world. There's the mattress capital of the world. We finally just drilled down and we're like, damn it, we just sold 8,558 donuts, and Guinness called us the capital of the world, and it's all over. You need to wake up and clean the sleep out of your eyes, bro, because we are the bleeping donut capital of the world, undisputed heavyweights champions of the world. There's no question. I'm out there carrying on like the village idiot about it. Like, come on now, Grapevine, Texas. I love you. I mean, that's great.
Awesome, right? So that came up. So it's in my head about Grapevine. So that's interesting that you actually had that connection too, or you knew about that. The other thing that came up for me when you were describing that is the power of the mind, right? So the idea that when you put in your mind you were going to be the donut capital of the world, I hate the term, you just kind of manifest it, because I don't believe but your brain just starts to.
It's funny because I had people help me. I took the word manifestation out of my third book.
Yeah,
there's 3 stages to being wired differently. There's creation stage, actualization stage, and then salvation stage. And if the actualization stage is this idea of actualizing what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Versus the word.
You make it. You because your brain.
You will it.
You will it, and you go, right? And that's the power, that's the negative power of pornography, which is your brain doesn't know the difference. You put that stuff in and it's like, it's game on, right? I mean, it's like you're actually with a woman, or you're near a woman, you see a woman, your brain just starts, all that dopamine, all that stuff, all those chemicals start to flow. And that's why all of a sudden you're not as interested in the real thing, right? You see people that are addicted to porn, they have no interest in the real experience, because the porn thing is just taking them down this dark rabbit hole, right? And their brain's like, I get all the response.
No wife can compete with that. No lover can compete with that. Your body can't compete with that, and it's irrational. It's not real, and it sets you up, and you can't finish as a man. You can't get ready as a man. You've sabotaged your entire relationship, your life, your family. People don't understand. This is worse than crack. This is worse than sugar. This is worse than,
it's a brain addiction. And but the reality there though, is that the message for me is you have to guard and be so careful of what you put in your skull. what you see, what you read, what you absorb, who you hang around with, right? People, other people, because your body, you start to adopt what it is experiencing, right? So the danger of pornography is it's accessible with 1-2 clicks of your phone. You can, it's right there, right? It's completely accessible. When we were kids growing up, if you wanted to see pornography, you had to be willing to stare down the 7-Eleven store owner and grab the Playboy at the top shelf and do whatever. And it took that kind of willpower to do that.
How old
Now
are you?
forget it.
How old are you?
I'll be 56 in June.
Okay, so I'm 58. So you're right. When we were kids, you had to work for that, right? I literally had to go to putt-putt golf. Did you remember putt-putt golf?
I remember putt-putt golf, yeah.
We had to go to putt-putt golf in Angola, Indiana, and wait in line on hole number 7, I think it was, because at hole number 7, you had a straight shot to the drive-in movie theater that was about a mile down the road, and all they showed on a drive-in movie theater was XXX movies. I'm like, blows my mind.
So now you're like, I got to get my telescope or my binoculars or whatever, right? You're like,
well, we didn't need it. The screen was massive. Like it wasn't a mile. It was probably a half mile or a quarter mile, but it was right there. So there was always this log jam on hole number 6. People were
crazy, right?
out in the open. Oh, like Debbie Does Dallas. I remember it was on the movie screen. The whole town was like, and no one
play golf.
Yeah, nobody said like we shouldn't have XXX in them. Right. It's like, well, we're smoking cigarettes, watching porn, and we don't wear seatbelts, and nobody needs helmets to do shit around here. Let's just go, man. It was like porn on hole number 6. I don't know.
No holds barred, man. Yeah, but so it's back to, you can take yourself down into the hole with negative influences, negative people, negative stuff, or you can take yourself to a new level, right? By putting in
you have to have that control, that discipline,
mantra, positive mindset, positive. And so, I appreciate you sharing about that Wired Differently. What else would you kind of share around the Wired Differently approach and kind of, how people can utilize that, things to think about there?
Yeah. There's a lot of teachings I have in the Wired Differently mindset. I teach on personality traits, behavior traits, human behavior traits. I think that's a great teaching. Most recently, my keynote is built around identity programming. And I think it's important that people understand that the North Star of our habits, right, which ties into this brain thing, the North Star of our habits is our identity. And so I teach people on how to build a habit, how to deconstruct a habit, how important habits are to program our subconscious, right? It's literally the free throws we shoot every day that makes us muscle memory to swish those shots, right? Yeah. And so, we need to take that same mindset and we need to understand how powerful habits are in our life. And if we're not forthcoming, if we're not in front of our habits, right, then we're creating habits that shape us from the world that creates our habits. And I love my father, but I pick on him a little bit when I do this metaphor is like my father had, for the first, 60 some years of his life was known as coach. And he smoked cigarettes, but no one ever called him a smoker. They called him a coach. Well, when he stopped coaching sometime around his 60s, and he started to trail off and not doing anything. He was retired, if you will, but he somehow moved up to 3 packs a day. And now his identity is a smoker.
Yeah.
Right. And so did he wake up and say, hey, man, I want to be known as a smoker? No. At one point, he woke up and said, I want to be known as a great coach. But the world did a nasty, spin on him, and he created a habit from what the world had given him, what Camels gave him, what his dad and his what the world, whatever was going on in the 60s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. That was a habit that he had created and decided to keep for some reason. He didn't pick it; it just happened. So that habit shaped him, and now here at 84 years old, that habit is now his identity. Right. And so I just think it's important that when you're talking about being wired differently, that you understand that, sometimes we have to be willing to change who we are to become who we want to be. And the thrust of any of that comes from our understanding of how to create habits that push us to our choice of our identity, not that the world gives us an identity because of the habits that the world has given us.
And what kind of habits? So when you talk about habits, I think about routine, morning routine, and daily routines, and things that are just like they're baked in. They're non-negotiables. You don't think about it. For me, it would be, fitness, exercise, things like that. My morning devotional time. It's like it's going to happen. I don't have to think, am I going to do this today, or what's my morning look like tomorrow? I know what it's going to look like because it's just is what it is. And I don't ask myself the question, do I feel like it, or am I too tired, or is it the good day or bad day to do it? You just do it because it's baked in. But what do you think about habits? What's critical, or what's important? What's sort of that hardwired?
Well, I'm a coach, and so I would tell you in a coaching session, if you were to use me, I would tell you the most successful people in the world know one thing, and they all know the same thing, and it's never going to change till the end of time. And the one thing that every successful person knows is, number one, they know what they want. So if that's the case, and you know what you want, then you can architect habits to the things that you want. But most of us get it backwards, like I was sharing. And so what I would tell you, that if you know what you want and you aspire to be what we call a successionaire, then I would give you the formula to becoming a successionaire. And you say, well, what's a successionaire? Well, I have patented that word as well. Successionaire is this idea of not putting the emphasis on becoming a millionaire, but becoming successful at the things that you choose to do, right? And the only way to really become successful at what you do is to do three things. One, know what you want. Two, create a plan. And three, execute it. And if you do that over and over and over again, you will aspire to be a successionaire. And so it's as simple. I mean, I'm not trying to make life and business complicated. That's an MBA right there, if you think about it. And so habits are the byproduct of that formula to become a successionaire. So I would train my students to reverse engineer your identity, aspire to be a successionaire, and understand that we need to create habits that fit the identity and the things that we want. And so one of the first things I'll leave you with this, my friend, is that we're all doing habits every day already. And if you want to start to architect habits in a direction that fits this new realized identity product, I would tell you to habit stack. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but habit stacking, it makes a lot of sense. You understand what I'm talking about here?
Yep.
So every morning I have this habit of waking up.
Yeah.
It's a good one. It's a great habit. I'm like 58%.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. I wake up. So that habit's happening. So what's the first thing you do when you get out of bed? For me, I get up and I go make coffee. So my habit is to wake up. As soon as I wake up, I think about creating a habit of coffee. So I get up, I turn the machine on. I wake up, the alarm goes off. That's my cue, right? And then the next thing that comes in this habit loop is my response to the cue. So the response to the cue is to turn the coffee on, right? And then after I turn the coffee on, I have a craving. And so I have a cue, I have a craving, and then the response is turn the coffee on. And then after I get the coffee, I get the reward. And that's the whole habit loop, right? And so what I'm doing in the morning is creating this habit routine. Well, if I have this habit routine of waking up, having coffee, reading devotional, and then moving and going into the shower, I'm just going to make you laugh here a little bit. I go into the shower, a massive shower, right? So I decided I wanted to get more fit. I wanted to get more routine. And so I started doing push-ups in the shower, because every morning I'm already doing the habit of waking up, coffee, shower, waking up, coffee, shower. So if I want to do something that's positive in my habit program or my new habit loop, it's the best thing to do is attach a new habit that's going to point you to the North Star, your identity, and stick it on top of a habit that you already have. Make sense?
It does. I'm still wondering why you're not doing push-ups before you get in the shower. Maybe still when you got a little bit of clothes on. I
It
get
was,
this visual. It's not helping
I
me.
know, I know. It's just a bad example, but it's just the truth. No, my habit's so routine. I'd like to wake up. I like to read my devotionals. I'd like to have the coffee and, just, I don't know.
I get it, man.
And I don't get too hot.
That's good. There you go. There's a good reason right there. All right. So I got to ask you another one. So,
But most of you are not going to forget habit stacking after that story.
habit stacking. Right on.
Yeah.
Yep. Do you, and you're a fitness, I know you're a fitness guy. You talked in one of your books about triathlons and you lost a bunch of weight, got fit. Is fitness and movement, is that part of your,
Absolutely.
Obviously you got the shower push-ups, but you do other stuff as well.
I go to the gym.
Go to the gym.
But my fitness has been very difficult. In 2017, I had my third back surgery, and I had complete reconstruction, two rods, 6 pins, and it was all kinds of. So I am not able to. I'm not an endurance guy like I used to be. So, I have to really watch my diet, and I do about an hour of cardio a day, and then I do weight machines. I don't do free weights anymore.
Yeah, it's great. It's awesome. All right. So, because you mentioned something there about the injury. So I coach people as well. I coach people a lot of times they're at some sort of a crossroad trying to make some decisions directionally in life, purpose. A lot of times it's figuring out purpose, mission, things like that. And I would say everyone that I talk to, myself included, even if you're a high performer, you've had successes, you've had business successes and then failures. When you get knocked down, when you get something that severely kind of takes you off track, some curveball kicks you in the knees, injury. So you're a fitness guy and then you blow your back out or you hurt yourself. Car accidents. We talked about that, I think, before hitting record. You've had several devastating car accidents, and it can take you out of your confidence. It can take you out of a winning stride. It can put you into the ditch. How do you pull yourself back out when you're in those crossroad moments or those surprise, oh crap, I'm having to rebuild myself. I'm having to figure this out again. Maybe I've lost motivation. Maybe I'm questioning things for the first time because I got really, really kneecapped,
I've never had a coaching opportunity come to me that somebody's doing well. Like it's either they're depressed or their marriage sucks and they're losing company money. It's never like that, right? And so I think the first thing you need to realize is everybody has those moments you're talking about, and unfortunately, a lot of us wait too long. But so I'm forced in many regards to coach people, actually from a spiritual perspective, on how to deal with those demons. And I think that I'd like to close this interview with a really brilliant acronym called ANTS. ANTS, ANTS. And do you know what that stands for? Dr. Daniel Amen, a brilliant man. I read about that in his book, Get Better Faster. And ANTS stand for automatic negative thoughts. Automatic negative thoughts. We all have them. And those are the ANTS are what trigger our depression or trigger the doubts, right? And so I have studied on it, I read on it, and I knew what's worked for me. And I knew that if I could intercept those ants before they got dwelling too deep into my mind, I could shut down that process. And so since the mind can only literally do one thing at once, it can do it super, super fast, a lot of things super, super fast, but it really can't. So if you can grab that thought or that feeling, which causing that feeling, that spiraling, and you can grab and discipline yourself to stop that thought and to reprogram that wiring in your brain so that ant doesn't come back over time by shutting it down, you'll win over time. And so what I teach and coach my students is to understand that the only way to stop that thought is to attack it right away and to recite Humpty Dumpty, recite Mother Goose. Find something that goes on for almost a minute that you can remember and say it Immediately when those thoughts start to enter your mind, those ants are there. So you got to get out your raid, your ant killer, whatever it is, and you got to say that. And by doing that rhyme or that poem, your brain can't focus on anything else but memorizing and reciting that out loud or even in your head. So I chose Matthew 6:9, our Father. So
I was gonna say the Lord's Prayer, right?
yeah. So here's what happens. Those doubts, those demons, they come in and boom. Listen, I'm a pro at this. I mean, there are nights where I've done 100 of these. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses of those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. What were we talking about? It's gone for me right now. Yeah. What's the name of this podcast? Eric Sardina. It's like, it works. And so over time, right? Over time, those automatic thoughts get under control, because when that automatic thought would come out, now it's hearing the Lord's Prayer.
Yeah.
You've programmed your brain to not have that thought anymore. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen immediately with the thought that you're having, because you short circuit it.
Yeah.
And it's not, anything takes work, Eric.
Everything takes work, no doubt. Love it. Hey man, what's next for you, and where can people find you, man, and keep up with your work?
Yeah, so that's pretty exciting. So if you want to go to wireddifferently.com, I'm working on that website right now. We have a whole merchandise line right now. Wireddifferently.com. It's a place for you to, subscribe and participate in supporting the mindset ministry movement in mission. Wired Differently. It's kind of a really cool place. You can shop to support, or you can donate a little bit to keep the shows going and all that kind of stuff going on. So that's really a great place to go there. We have this Tiki Hut once a year, Tiki Hut retreat, where we bring people from all over the country, and I teach them in mindset, Wired Differently, leadership, and all the things that we stand for in the books. And it's a great time. ToddSaylor.com is my speaking website, either ToddSaylor.com or WiredDifferently.com. They connect to each other. You can get to merch. You can get to speaking opportunities. You can do all that there. I think probably the most things I'm excited about is my fourth book, which I've got to get on, is The Tiger in Us. So we talked about that earlier, The Tiger in Us. TheTigerInUs.com. You can see the movie trailer of the book I'm writing first, called The Tiger in Us. And it's the story of a boy and his father. It's a love story between those two. It's a story of being wired differently and not fitting in this world. But most of all, it's a story about my father and this world win streak record he set from 1968 to 1975. He never lost or tied a football game. And the whole world was celebrating him. And come to find out, he really wasn't a football coach, but he was a builder of men, and he was training these men for Vietnam, not to win football games. And so it's a beautiful love story. It's a beautiful story. I think the movie is going to be an Oscar-winning movie. I really believe that. And the Boy in the Boat, I don't know if you saw that movie. It's in the same ilk of that, but I think a cooler time period movie. And it's going to be phenomenal.
Awesome. I'm excited for that, brother. You got the 3 books that I've got a hold of here. I know you got your 4th coming out. Drift Again is 1. 8 Traits of Supremely Purposeful People. You've got Your Will Be Done. And then Wired Differently, I think, was number 1. That's a younger version of you on that one, man. The cover.
A little bit younger. I still look the same. Just
you
my
look
beard
good.
A little darker, right?
Yeah, a little bit. It's the beard. It's all it is, man. It's just the beard.
That's 2018.
Right on.
Yeah, 2018, 2019, yeah.
Fantastic. Man, it's
what
been a
about
great
the second
conversation.
book? Do I look the same in the second book?
Second book, that Drift Again, man, you're jacked. You're like, that's like a...
You can't even see my face. I drift again.
I'm telling you. But the back, it's the back. I mean, I wouldn't want to tussle with that guy. I don't know where you're heading in the ocean with your suit on, but I like the vibe.
You get through that book. I'll tell the story, what I'm doing, what happened in that cover shot, man. The whole ocean, a wave came in. I was trying to get a different shot for the cover, and the camera crew was out there. I was 208 pounds there. I just gotten over COVID. We took us like an hour to walk a quarter of a mile because I couldn't walk. I couldn't breathe. I was tired, was emaciated. And we had to get that photo shoot done. And so I was doing that. We went out to this island, which I can see the island from my house. It's called Beer Can Island. So I wanted to have this shot out there. And we were out there forever taking shots. And I had this log across my back and I wanted to look like I was trudging and all that. And I thought I had the perfect shot. A wave came in, knocked me on my tail, went under, completely drenched my pants, my shirt, everything, the log. And I come up and the log's gone. And I'm like, I don't know. Are you taking pictures? She goes, yeah, I'm getting all the pictures. I'm like, well, keep shooting. And I was so upset. I turned around, I'm like, I'm taking this ocean on, man. And so I started walking into the ocean like nothing's going to stop me in this world. You know, it's a drift, right? But I got to bring it. And so she took that shot, and that was like one of the last pictures I even looked at. I'm like, man, that's the picture. The picture tells an amazing story. I actually have two covers on that. There's the stormy version of that cover, and then there's the tropical version. The stormy version is, I wrote a whole special chapter about going through storms and changed the cover to a darker cover. But I'm glad you asked that question. That's a great cover shoot. It's a great imagery, and each cover tells the story.
I mean, you can't see obviously your face in a way, but it definitely conveys this idea of I'm taking on the world. I'm facing down some demons. I'm getting after it, you know?
In the third book cover, look at the difference between the third book cover. Do you have your Will Be Done? Did she send you that one?
Yes, I have it there. Yeah. So I got the hand on the globe. Yeah. Is it a globe? What is that?
That's the brain. Yeah. Brain.
Yep.
So the first book had my face. The second book had my back. And the third book has nothing on there but an image of God, maybe in my hand, and
your hand,
the brain, and then my tattoo.
247.
2 Timothy 4:7.
Right on.
So we're getting farther away from me and closer to God.
Love it.
Yeah.
Legit. Awesome, man. We'll get these links put in the show notes. Man, we could keep going. I so appreciate your time, and it's been a great conversation. I'd love to go deeper and talk more, but I know you got other things to get to. And so
let's do another show, man.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Abby will hook you up. We'll do it. It's all good.
Right on. Awesome, man. Appreciate you so much, Todd. It's been a great talk.
We'll run this and we'll get you on our show down the road.
Love it. All right, brother.
God bless you.
God bless you, my man. To our audience, thank you for taking time from your busy day to listen to the show. Always appreciate you do that. If you would share the program with a friend, write a review, give us a rating, all those things help us reach a broader audience. Until next time, friends, I'm Eric Sardina. You've been listening to the Return to Authenticity podcast, and bye for now.